It's late on a Tuesday and you're hovering over the payment screen again. The rent cleared, the card bill lurks, and your savings app shows a balance that looks frozen in amber. You pinch to zoom on a tiny chart, drag the timeline for a bigger view, and it still feels flat. Like you're pushing a boulder that refuses to roll. You close the app, open it again, 30 seconds later. They don't change. Here's the quiet truth that sneaks up on people who stick with it. Most progress hides. For a long stretch, the line barely moves, then, seemingly out of nowhere, everything jumps. That pause before the payoff creates a special kind of fatigue. Your shoulders tense with each notification. You start bargaining about skipping one transfer just this month. And the voice in your head says, this isn't worth it. Listen carefully. What you're hearing right now isn't personalized financial advice. These are patterns your brain runs when money feels heavy. And once you can spot them, you can steer through without white knuckling every day. Think about your last week. Monday at lunch, you scrolled your brokerage and flicked between day and 1 year views, hoping the green line would reassure you. Tuesday night, you renamed a restaurant charge networking to soothe the sting. Wednesday morning, you promised yourself to move your credit card due date closer to payday, then snooze the task when the meeting ran long. Thursday, you dragged a row in your spreadsheet into a new tab labeled Later. Friday, you let the auto invest run, but trimmed the amount by $20 because the weekend was calling. A friend of mine went through exactly this. Jack spent 2 years saving like a ghost in his own life. He packed leftovers, canceled free trials, sold a dusty guitar, and set an automatic transfer he kept wanting to cancel. For 10 months, his chart looked like a flat road across a cold desert. He told me it felt like whispering into a hurricane. But under the surface, something else was taking shape. Every small deposit was stacking in silence, like bricks laid behind drywall, boring to watch, essential for strength. Here's where it gets interesting. Your nervous system hates long, quiet stretches, that tightness in your chest when the balance barely moves. That's your body asking for a quick pulse of reward. Meanwhile, each bill ping delivers stress that shouts louder than your calm plan. Left alone, that push and pull leads you to break the habits that would have carried you through the plateau. You chase novelty, yank money into a new idea, and reset the clock. The plateau stays, you start believing that slowness means failure, when slowness is exactly how compounding gets its footing. Jack found his way out by changing what he measured. He stopped waiting for his graph to climb in big leaps and started counting repetitions, not results. He called them boring laps. Boring lap was one transfer made on time, one no scroll. Morning, one meal packed without drama, one refusal to tinker with a perfectly fine index fund. He wrote the laps on a sticky note and snapped a photo after each week. After 8 weeks of nothing glamorous, his balance didn't look heroic. But his system did. He could touch evidence that he showed up. That evidence did something his chart couldn't. It told his nervous system, you're winning right now. If this sounds like your nightly routine, you're not alone. Share which pattern hits hardest for you, because naming it out loud is the first way to loosen its grip. Maybe it's the lunch scroll. Maybe it's trimming auto invest right before the weekend. Maybe it's the later tab that swallows every plan. Say it, and you'll watch it lose some of its power. There's a moment in every path where the numbers start compounding and the habits stop squeaking. The weird thing is, it never announces itself. It arrives like sunrise behind thick curtains. First a hint, then a glow, then you realize the whole room has changed. Jack's came on a random Thursday. He forgot to check his account for 3 days. When he opened the app, the balance had finally crested a number that once felt impossible. Nothing magical had happened that week. What changed was that his deposits had built enough surface area for new money to land on money. Let's talk about why that jump feels sudden. Imagine filling a bucket with a dripping tap. For a long time, it sounds like a waste. Drip, drip. It looks like nothing. Then, halfway, the water level starts to rise faster because each new drop lands on a broader surface. Money behaves the same way. Early on, each transfer lands on bare floor. Later, it lands on more money, which pushes the line higher. Your attention can't feel that curve in real time, so it labels the middle stuck. Now, think about what this means for your next 7 days. You don't need a grand plan, you need a rhythm that carries you across the quiet middle. Start tomorrow by setting a single, boring lap you can finish before breakfast. Move $10 to savings and mark the lap done. The amount matters less than the lap. On day 2, pair the transfer with a tiny discomfort, leave the chart closed until noon. On day 3, lock your auto invest for the month and write a note to your future self that says, "We keep the promise when it's boring." On day 4, choose one purchase to downgrade without drama. The rideshare becomes a walk, the app order becomes an omelet at home. On day 5, move your credit card due date to the calm part of your pay cycle and set a reminder you'll actually see. On day 6, open your spreadsheet and delete the Later tab. Put the single next step on today's page. On day 7, count your laps. Post the count where you'll bump into it. That's your scoreboard now. You'll probably hit a wall when the third Friday feels expensive. That's the old pattern knocking. Answer it with a smaller win, not a bigger excuse. Buy the coffee, keep the transfer. Don't worry if you slip back to scrolling the chart at midnight. Rename the habit, checking the lights, and set a 1-minute timer. When the old pattern resurfaces as a new opportunity that promises faster growth, step back and ask, does this reset my clock? If yes, let it pass. Sure, the plateau is where your edge is built. As your system stabilizes, your stress chemistry quiets down. The flood of urgency that once pushed you to soothe yourself with spending or tinkering starts to ease. You feel less pulled by the next ping and more anchored by the last promise you kept. Money stops being a hallway of alarms and becomes a series of rooms you can walk through calmly. This reminds me of what happened to Jack when his car decided to quit in the worst week of the year. Old Jack would have panicked, raided savings, and apologized to himself later. New Jack opened his notes, saw 26 boring laps, and realized he had a cushion. He didn't celebrate the balance. He celebrated the weeks he had proven he could trust himself. The repair hurt, but it didn't break his rhythm. 2 weeks later, he was back on pace, and something quiet inside him said, "We can handle life now." When this clicks, everything shifts. Follow for more of these revelations about money and mind, because the more you understand the hidden gears, the less you'll be pushed around by them. Here's the thing people rarely admit. The fastest way through a plateau is to make your wins smaller, not bigger. Smaller means achievable under stress, repeatable under boredom, unfancy enough that you can do them after a tough day. Smaller wins reduce the pressure that breaks your streak, and streaks, more than spikes, build the kind of confidence that money obeys. Think about athletes counting reps in the offseason. The reps look dull and feel endless until they don't. Then the season starts and their bodies reveal what was building all along. So what should you expect to feel as the curve turns? First, boredom that tastes like progress. Second, sudden moments of ease like tapping your transit card and realizing you didn't feel the usual pinch. Third, small surges of pride that arrive when you decline a shiny impulse and it doesn't feel like deprivation, just alignment. These sensations are signs that your system is becoming self-propelling. You won't always notice them in the moment. You'll sense them in the way your day loosens. If the idea of a 7-day rhythm feels heavy, try one habit focus instead. Protect your auto invest like it's a plant you water at dawn. Don't move it. Don't talk to it. Don't pick at the leaves. Let it sit in good soil. Everything else can wobble. That single act, kept steady through the dull middle, will carry you further than spiky bursts of enthusiasm. And if you want a ritual to make it real, tie it to a physical movement. After brushing your teeth at night, you open the app, glance once, and whisper, "Still on track." Drop a comment saying, "Starting tomorrow," if you're ready to break this cycle, because commitment likes company and you'll move further when your promise has air. Before we wrap, bring back the image that started this. You, phone in hand, staring at a flat chart in the dim light of your room. The Plateau Illusion tells you nothing is happening. But beneath that quiet surface, your deposits are linking arms. Your choices are teaching your nervous system to stop sprinting after relief and start walking towards stability. One day you'll open the app and the number will look different and you'll shrug, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand the story the line was telling all along. There's someone I know who discovered this, and his name keeps me honest when my own patience thins. Jack reminds me that invisible seasons are where strength is poured. He reminds me that a life can shift on a random Thursday because weeks of small, unfancy promises decided to compound at once. He reminds me that nothing seems to happen, until everything does. Now take a slow breath. Feel your shoulders drop. Choose one small lap you'll finish before the sun is up tomorrow, then another the next day. Keep going through the quiet middle. When the jump arrives, and it will, you'll be ready for it, and it will feel less like a miracle and more like the most predictable thing in your life. You'll trust the climb at last, fully.